Good day, folks. Today is September 29th, Monday. I finished the whole day of teaching, prepared my lessons for tomorrow, and now I'm ready to roll with whatever that floats my boat. What you see on the screen right now is the finale of the Haydn Variations by Johannes Brahms. This is the piano reduction, solo piano reduction by Stark. This is a work that I'm unable to play, and I will not read. But I just want to show you that there's some insane energy, positive energy from this work, from this page alone. Well, I was saying that some curious things came about from Opus 62 number 1 recently that I heard actually from William Yan. He is the U.S. Chopin competition winner from Curtis, and he recently graduated. Now, I'm not going to comment on how the performance went, but I'm just going to say that he played a part that I thought I had nailed down. So why don't I just go to that place straight up, and let's talk about the sort of the choices. So it's actually about score reading. It's not about interpretation or anything. Let's try not to go there yet. So this curiosity came around a particular measure over here. So I'm going to highlight this for you. This is 52. So I want to mention that this piece, so this local position here is at A flat. So this local tonality is A flat, for 4 flats. And we have the sequence of trills that take us to the next forte, which is actually part of the, it's not the emotional climax yet, but it is getting there. So, but what I ended up finding out is that from Williams playing, the trills here don't sound the same. Now, I used to play them the same way. I will tell you what they are later on. Now, if you're keen of reading it yourself, you feel free to do so. It can get a little bit confusing here. Now, after William Yan played his version, and then I thought about my version, and I was like, okay, there are 2 versions of this already. Do they sound different? Yes. And then I got curious. I started looking at other recordings. For example, Horowitz, Maria Perez? Who else? Actually, Samson Fonsa. I'd heard all of them, and they actually all gave me different versions. I had like 4 versions now of exactly the same measure. And I think that's crazy, because it's not just me who is a total amateur that I'm reading this differently, and then there's a bunch of professionals are making different versions out of this. Then I don't know which edition of the text they're reading. So here are my takes. Okay? Now, these trills, now, if you ignore the sharp mark and the flat mark on the top here, for example, I'm going to circle them here. So imagine that they're not there. Then the way that you're going to play is, okay, you look at the note, the central note of the trill, so it's usually your bottom note. So, for example, the first note is the C. Is the B natural, right? Okay. Is the B natural. Okay. So this B natural, if there's no more instructions on the top, you will trill to the next diatonic note in your key. And my next diatonic note would be C. So, because C is a diatonic note in A flat, so I would just play that. Then, I was now further instructed to sharp the note that I'm trilling with. As in, I'm trilling on B natural, I'm trilling with the note instructed, which instead of being playing C, it should be C sharp. So the effect that you will hear should be okay. So I think the controversy on this one is less than the next one. However, I think Horowitz just doesn't give a crap. He actually played the same thing, and I'm going to call it the wrong thing throughout here. But whatever, Horowitz is Horowitz. Okay. Now, here comes the curious situation, which is the next trill. Now, the next trill is on C flat. Now, C flat is enharmonic to B natural. So the trill, so this trill that you're trilling on it's still the same notes as before. It's just enharmonically being called C flat. So your bass is still basically B natural or C flat. So the bass doesn't change. If you're using your index finger on the B natural before, you were probably using the B flat. You're probably using the same fingering here now, depending on different fingering conventions or effectiveness. But if you were to not change, to keep things constant, I'm gonna stay on the B natural as the note that I'm trilling on. So now here comes the question: what are you trilling with? So the instruction is you go to the next diatonic note and then apply further instructions that is needed to perform the trill. Now, this is my definition of the writing here. We could work with another definition, and we will talk about it. But follow with, this is currently my opinion, so let's take it. So, if I were to do C flat, okay, what is the next diatonic note in the work here? You see, that's a question, right? This question is crazy, because if I do that, what will be the next note? C flat, the next diatonic note is actually C again, right? C again, which is this note. All right. And then what? If I were to look at the further instruction on the top, it says, you are going to have to play C flat. So I'm going to play, this makes no sense. It's no longer a trill. It's no longer a trill, right? It's no longer a trill. So this is making me think. This is making me think. Because I didn't quite spend enough time looking up the definition, but I'm trying to get the definition out of this. So if I were to follow diatonicism, this is not going to work. Okay, so then let's change definition of what trill that we need to play here. Okay, so go back to the B natural, go back to the first one. Okay, so what is it? B natural. If it is not diatonicism, I'm just going to play the next note, noted note. So B, who is above B? C is above B, right? C is above B. Okay, I'm going to play C, which is the note that I trill with. Then I need to sharp it. Fine. So what I'm trying to follow here is the trill is always a relationship from the letter changes. So if I write on A and I ask you, do a trill here, then your trill is always going to be with B or a modification of B. So if I follow this definition, the first stands put because I play B natural and then I play C because the letter change. And then the C that I followed up was instructed to be sharped. This is precisely what it is. So it didn't change. Even if I do diatonicism, even if I do this current just letter change definition, same thing, same thing. Okay, so now apply the same principle, which is induce a letter change to the next note on which you trill. C flat. What is the next note that requires a change? C, whether C flat or not, it is going to relate to D. I need a D change. I need a D as my natural next note in terms of letters. Okay, if I were to work with D, then what? I'm further instructed to do flat. So I'm going to have to play C flat, D flat. So the net effect here is B natural and then C sharp. Then you have C flat and then D flat. They end up being an harmonic trill, which is why in most of the performances that I heard at Chopin competition, for example, Avdiva, for example, Trifonov, Amelin, so Charles Amelin, they all did, and also Kate, and then Eric Liu, they all did this enharmonic trilling. Now, I could show you what William Yan did, what Horowitz did, what Maria Perez did, but I think it's probably for the best interest to find out themselves. And I'm telling you, they are different. So William Yan did this. And then he did the, and he did that. So the first thing were the same, but then the second trill, he did C flat and then C. Now, I may have a, I don't know how this is possible, because, so there is another instance earlier, I'll show you, is this. This is another instance, just 2 bars earlier. This is still in the A flat section. No problem there. And then I know that my trill is on C sharp. Good? Okay. Now, C sharp, and it instructs us to do what? Trill with a natural sign. Now, what is my next note if I were to follow the letter change definition? C follows D. But unfortunately, D in this current key signature is flatted already. That's why it's marked natural, so you do the C sharp, D natural trill. Okay. That carries directly, and almost nobody make a mistake here. Actually, Maria Perez plays something else. I have no clue what the hell she's doing there, and she should play something completely different. What this further implies is that even though D is naturally flatted in the local key, the instruction clarifies it, right? The instruction clarifies it, as in, we know you're going to play a D, and D is naturally flatted, so play natural, play it naturally. As in, this will tell you precisely what note to play in the instruction above the trill. And this now makes me think about this thing here, which is, if I were to follow William Yan and say, so I'm going to say that William Yan did the same here, but then he went to B and he played C instead. Okay, then what? Like, why does this make consistent sense? For example, if this were to be eventually thought of as D double flat for the C natural, you would just write double flat as the instruction on the top. You won't just write one flat, right? So what the hell's going on here? And let's hear the effect. Let's hear the effect. I'll play several versions. So yeah, it makes no sense to play. Yeah, I'm still trying to justify basically William Yan's approach here, because the first trill, either diatonicism makes sense or the letter change definition makes sense, right? That would be consistent to even work in both cases. But diatonicism doesn't work for the next one, because C flat, what's the next note in that is diatonic in A flat? C. And then you were instructed to flat it. You can't go on, right? You can't go on. Now, so then I guess there's a third definition. So one is diatonicism. Two is just request a letter change. And third, I have now is 1 plus 2. In what sense? So you take your current note, the trill that you're supposed to trill on, you say, okay, what is the next diatonic note in here? And also the diatonic note must incur a letter change. So B natural will give a letter change to C, and C also is diatonic in the key. So then the first, and then you have to sharp it. So then the first note, the first trill stays put. I don't think there's a confusion for the first trill. The second trill, if you're on C flat, you want this to be a next note to be a diatonic note. You also want the next note to be a letter change. Right? Okay, so you're going to do C flat and actually D flat because you want a letter change as well. So if it is D flat and then it's further instructed to play flat, you're going to play basically a double flat on D. I think that's the only thing that I can think of that this is the reason. So now, instead of sort of shoveling all of this around, let's just do a quick Google search. Trill, sharp, flat instructions. I'm not going to trust this here. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to search what is trill sharp. What does a sharp above a trill mean? Great question. Hey, that's actually Chopin as well. Chopin Opus 72 E minor Nocturne. So this is a great question here. It was saying, what does a sharp, so this piece is in E minor, so one sharp at F sharp and nothing else. What does a sharp above a trill mean? Do I trill the B with C sharp? Great question. So let's look at it, see if there are definitions. Yes, the sharp there indicates that the auxiliary note of the trill will be C sharp. The accepted performance practice in that measure is to start the trill on the principal note B. So this is convention. Okay, somebody also says, when a sharp, flat, or natural sign is placed before or above the trill, the upper note is to be played sharp, flat, natural, as indicated. Now, but what is the upper note? What determines the upper note? Diatonic sense? Letter change sense? What? So that's actually not clear. So I want a better answer. Jennifer Clough. Great. Fantastic. This is awesome, right? This is awesome. Okay, we're seeing something. Okay, so the trill symbol here is, so for example, this is on B natural, executed to C. So let's actually go back to the definition. Trills can be notated as TR, as a symbol of a wavy line, or in very old music, and blah. The trill is always from the written note to the next alphabetical note above it, upward, that is in the key signature. So, if I were to look at this, so this line here, this one on D here, I need to look at the next alphabetical note, which is D up to what? It is D up to E, but also needs to be in the signature. So I'm going to have to play E flat, because E flat is natural in here. And the E flat is called upon by the key signature. Okay. Same example as below, which is E, and then E trill needs to trill with F, and F is naturally sharped. Sorry, it's sharped in this key signature. Okay, good. If the composer wishes you to trill to an upper note that is not in the key signature, he or she will write the trill clearly indicating what the upper note should be. So if this C is played here, this B is played here without the without the natural sign, it will be C, B, and C sharp. So then you take the C sharp down. Okay, great. So now more questions. So in this example, I'm actually quite interested in this example. A flat, but double flats. Double flats. Suppose it is not there. Suppose the double flat is not there. You'll be hearing so in fact, even if you put a flat there, it doesn't do anything, right? It does not do anything. It's a redundant symbol, because the note above you in alphabetical change is what? Is just B, and then you play B flat because due to the key signature. Okay. So the double flat needs to be put there. Okay. The double flat really indicates what? The relationship to the natural B itself. Okay. So I think I'm getting somewhere. Now let's return to the actual problem. So it seems that the definition needs to be 1 plus 2. You need a letter change. You also need it to be in your key. So now, my question then for this second trill, which has a flat sign. So it's C flat. It needs to go where? It needs to have a letter change, alphabetical change. So C flat must go to something about D. Must go to D, right? Go to D. Now, here comes actually almost my original reasoning, which I had in mind. This flat sign, okay, this flat sign is useless, to be honest, because if you need to play the next D, which is then flatted in the key signature, why do I need to put this flat sign? You don't need to. Why do I need it? You don't need it. Why do I need it? It is my next letter change, and then in my key signature, it is flat. So I don't actually need an additional instruction to tell me to play flat. But what this flat is doing here is to correct this, the earlier natural sign. Earlier you played a natural D, so the next time, if I want you to play D flat, I'm gonna have to mark it as an incidental. And that flat mark, I think, is for the incidental on the D natural and tell you, no, go back to play D flat now because I want to correct you back and we're gonna modulate back to locally A flat. So, that's the verdict. We're gonna have to play. So, definition 3 stands put, but this is a correction. This is an incidental. Incidental to correct for that. Okay, so I think this kind of wraps up what this is about. Why don't we play this work? Okay, so this is Opus 62, number 1 by Chopin. I don't feel like reading the next one because I can't really play number 2, the middle part. I really enjoy the part before it, but I'm not gonna play since I cannot play it in full. So why don't we play something else for the last, like, say, 10 minutes or 10 minutes? Okay, so what can we do? Kapustin? Kapustin. Or maybe the prelude. You read the preludes, no? Okay, can we read number 6? Wow, this feels like maybe this is a time to go to practice Opus 15 number 2 better and then actually learn this one. Ah.